We all know him from seeing him on TV and hearing his pronouncements for the entire country. But as an infectious disease specialist, what difference has he made in your life?
I mean, in one word, he's a legend. I mean, to many of us, kind of on the younger end of the infectious disease specialists, he's someone that we've always looked up to. He's a trusted source of information. We hear him speak at national conferences for our field, and he is really a role model for all of us.
So we know him obviously most recently from the COVID pandemic, but this was not his first dealing with a major epidemic situation. I'm curious how he changed his approach, what he learned over the years, going all the way back to AIDS, which I think is the first one he really struggled with.
I think what is striking to me about the way he's handled, many of these issues in the infectious disease world is that he stays on point. He sticks to the facts. He guides, the country the right way in terms of the clinical knowledge, the epidemiology, the data. Everything is evidence based, and that's nice to see in someone holding a position that he holds.
What will it do? What changes do you think might come about with his stepping down?
It's hard to say. I mean, he obviously has very big shoes to fill. And so, we would just hope, obviously, we should all hope that the person who fills his shoes would be able to carry the country in the same direction in terms of health.
So he steps down at a time when the CDC is saying it needs to really rethink what it's doing and how it's doing it. What can be learned from the experience from the pandemic for the CDC and the way we deal with public health more generally in the country?
I think that there are a lot of lessons learned. I mean, even at the level of the CDC, but even down to what's happening on the ground in hospitals, healthcare systems, health departments. I think we've learned that, there needs to be, we need to be acting proactively, not, about any sort of new public health threat that's on the horizon, monkeypox being an example, increasing access to testing, increasing education, increasing access to treatments, and not having a reactive kind of stance, but being more proactive and trying to prepare in advance so that things don't get out of hand.
Doctor, if you can, how much of what the NIH does is descriptive rather than prescriptive? By that I mean, how much of his information, as you just said, disseminating information, trying to educate people about what's going on, as opposed to setting standards and guidelines?
Well, I think the NIH does have a responsibility for creating guidelines and standards, and obviously that was a huge challenge in the setting of a disease like COVID-19, which was brand new, and everyone's just trying to learn about it as we go. So I do think that plays a big role in what they do, and people look to the NIH, for guidance, and they're a trusted kind of source of information. But I do think that needs to be a role to educate, push that out, make sure that we're counteracting misinformation, which has become a big issue over the past couple of years.
We have a viewer actually writing in with, I think, quite a good question, which is, it seems like a lot of public health has become very political, as much of the rest of our life is in the United States at this point. Do you see any hopes of trying to take some of the politics out of it so we get back to the science? Because right now, they seem to be, every pronouncement from the NIH seems to be politicized.
I agree 100%. I think that that's something that has been really on the forefront since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, is how political public health has become. And I think it's to public health's detriment. I think that, when possible, the two should be separated. Public health is public health, regardless of individuals, whether you're a conservative or a Democrat or whatever your party is. The goals are different for public health initiatives. And so the hope is that, the two can be separated because, again, those goals are very different.
One of the jobs I think that people in public health have is to try to persuade the rest of us we need to take it more seriously. There has to be serious investment made. What can Dr. Fauci do, or has he already done for that matter, to really persuade us we need to improve our public health? Because I think we all learned from this pandemic we were not ready for it.
No, and I agree that is something that we learned. I think that it's not only Dr. Fauci, it's all of us kind of that are, playing a role in the public health arena, is making sure that, some of these issues they come to the forefront, standing up for education, standing up for communication, and getting the accurate facts out there. I think that's what's most important.
So finally, if you can, and the history books will write this, what do you think his legacy will be when we look back at it 50 years from now, 100 years from now? Will it be that he was a good scientist who did his best? Did he change our approach to public health?
I think that his legacy will live on forever. I think, in my opinion, he was great at what he did, and he would always be viewed in a positive light. He's made a really positive impact on this country.